Hello and welcome to Disney Travel Tales, a podcast that allows you to immerse yourself in someone's recent Disney trip. I'm Jenny and I'm so happy to be here with you talking about my favorite thing, Disney trips. Join us every Friday as we explore the parks or cruise ships with a new guest and learn inside tips and tricks to hopefully help make your vacation go a little smoother. Make sure to subscribe to the show wherever you are listening so you never miss a new episode, and I would love it if you left a positive review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. This is the easiest way to support the podcast. Another way to support the podcast is to use me as your travel agent at no cost to you. Email me at jenny@trolleylanetravel.com. Let me do all the hard planning while you sit back and count down the days to your vacation. Okay, so let's get going with today's show. Hello and welcome. You are listening to episode number 73, and today's show is going to be all about Genie Plus at Walt Disney World in Florida. So I did an episode about Genie Plus last year, kind of earlier in the year. It was after one of my trips and I had used it and kind of felt comfortable with it. But the bad news is that show is no longer relevant. There have been some updates and changes since that time to the Genie Plus program. And we just heard that in 2024, there are going to be more updates. So this episode will hopefully work through the rest of this year for anyone who is traveling to Walt Disney World. I hope it helps you kind of get an idea if you are not familiar with Genie Plus or how to use it. Yeah, I just want this to be like a companion for you. So as a travel agent, I always try to recommend Genie Plus to my clients because personally, I really like this system and I think it's a great way to reduce the amount of time that you are going to spend in lines while you visit the parks. Yes, you have to pay for it separately, and I know a lot of people, they kind of don't like that, especially since the old FastPass system was free. But because you have to pay for it, not everyone buys it. And I actually like the system more than the FastPass system. Everyone was given Fast Passes, and so sometimes those lines were really long. My experience with Genie Plus is not everyone is buying it. Some people honestly don't even know about it when they visit the parks. And so the lines that you stand in the Lightning Lane lines, it's kind of a tongue twister. They really are short, and you're going to spend less time standing in lines if you just invest a little bit. Something I like to recommend is just save ahead of time. If you just kind of every now and then purchase a Disney gift card at the store when you're there and just save up a little bit of money, you can add this to your trip and it's not going to put a huge dent in your bank account. Another reason I decided to go ahead and do this episode is because when I'm talking to my clients, it's really hard to explain to someone over email how to use this system. And so I thought, yes, I'm just going to record an episode and then I can share this with them. And by listening to me, I hope it makes it easier. If you have any friends or family that are traveling to Walt Disney World and they need to learn about Genie Plus, share the show. Okay, so let's just kind of get started at the very beginning. What is Genie Plus? So Disney says Genie Plus is an optional paid service that will allow guests to skip the line and head right to the Lightning Lane entrance on select attractions. Genie Plus is something you pay for once a day per person for the people that are in your party, and the price can range from $15 per person per day to $35 per person per day. There were a couple of times this spring that it actually sold out. So there are a limited amount that they're going to sell because, again, if they sell too much and these lines get really long, people are not going to pay for it because then what are you even paying for? So yeah, it was at its peak price and sold out, which is kind of crazy, but it shows you how valuable this actually can be for people. There is another paid option just called individual Lightning Lanes. Now, each park has one ride. They have at least one ride. Some have two rides where this ride is not included in the Genie Plus list of rides, which I will include all the rides that are at each park in the regular Genie Plus in the show notes, so you can go see that. But these individual lightning lanes, they are separate. So when you are purchasing that, you are paying to ride that ride only and skip the line. Those prices can range from $7 to $17 per person per attraction. So yeah, just check the show notes for a list of these rides, and let's just keep going. So one thing to remember is that on-site guests, they do have an advantage when it comes to Genie Plus. So if you are staying at one of the Disney hotels online or on site, or if you're staying at the Swan and Dolphin, you are going to be able to make your first Genie Plus selection at 7 a.m. that morning. If you're an off-site guest, staying at one of the off-site hotels or an Airbnb, you have to wait until the park opens. Now, in a slow season, this isn't that big of a deal. But in a busy season, this 2-hour window is actually gives people staying on site a pretty big advantage. So depending on when you're traveling, this is something you might just want to keep in mind when you're choosing where to stay. If you decide that Genie Plus is something that you want to purchase while you're at Walt Disney World, then I would take the time to prioritize the rides that you want to do at each park before your trip. Certain rides, they go quicker than others when it comes to Genie Plus. And so by prioritizing what is important to you, this will help you get the most out of Genie Plus. So let's do an example. At Magic Kingdom, Peter Pan and Jungle Cruise, those are popular selections for guests because these lines tend to be very, very long. On one of my trips, I'm just trying to remember this off the top of my head, so it's not perfect, but it's pretty close. The line for Peter Pan was 60 minutes, and with Genie Plus, it was almost a walk-on. I think I was like 5 minutes. So by purchasing this, it really can save you a lot of time. Now, not every ride is going to end up being like that. I had a case at Animal Kingdom where I purchased Flight of Passage as an individual lightning lane, and we still ended up waiting 30, 40 minutes for that ride. So again, it's just going to depend on the day, the circumstances, and all those factors when it comes to how long you're actually going to wait. But back to prioritizing your rides. So Peter Pan and Jungle Cruise, those are usually an hour plus wait times in the regular standby line. So if you're wanting to ride one of these, I would prioritize that selection at Magic Kingdom. At Hollywood Studios, Slinky Dog Dash still is the most popular ride to use with Genie Plus. It actually might be the most popular across all the parks. It goes very, very quickly in the morning. So by prioritizing this ride, if you want to do it, it can ensure that you are going to hopefully get to ride it without having to stand in the standby line. Let's move on to how you actually use Genie Plus. So right now, you cannot purchase Genie Plus ahead of time. It goes on sale at midnight each night for that day. And this is one of the things that might actually change in 2024. When Genie Plus was first rolled out, you could add it to your ticket at Walt Disney World. And then they took that away. And so I'm just wondering if this is going to be an option that they are going to bring back. We will have to wait and see. Or instead of adding it to your ticket, I'm wondering if you're going to be able to purchase it in advance, like at the 60-day mark when you do dining reservations, or maybe at a 30-day mark. So this is going to be something that's going to be really interesting to see what happens. So let's say you purchased it at midnight, you went to sleep and you got a great night's rest, and you wake up bright and early to get your first reservation at 7 a.m. Because if you are an on-site guest, that is when you are going to get to make your first selection. So what you're going to do is you're going to open your My Disney Experience app and select the 3 horizontal bars at the bottom right of the screen. After you select that, you're going to choose My Day. After you choose My Day, you're going to choose Tipboard. And this is where the times will be where you can reserve the lightning lanes. And this is where you're also going to be able to purchase your individual lightning lanes. So as you scroll through, you're going to see the various rides and their return times. When you are making a Genie Plus selection, you don't get to choose your time. You just have to take what is available at that time. So let's say you open it and Peter Pan is available at 11. You can grab it. Let's say you open it and Peter Pan's not available until 2 and you just really don't want to wait that long. You don't have to choose it. Choose something that's earlier and maybe you can get it later in the day. Peter Pan does go quickly, but this is when you kind of just have to go back to prioritizing your rides and see what is most important to you for that day. Now, when it comes to the individual lightning lanes, you actually can choose your return time because you are paying for this attraction only. That is such a great feature. And if you're park hopping that day, you can go and choose and go ahead and purchase an individual lightning lane for a ride at a different park later that day. This was something I used all the time and I loved it. Just knowing that that ride was waiting for me at a different park was perfect. So in the tip board tab, when you choose the ride that you want to choose, you're going to click the time and then you verify everyone in your party. So make sure that you have everyone in your party in your app, that you're linked together. If it's other adults or other family, or if it's your own family, they should already all be there anyways. Now, this time will show up under your My Day tab on the front page of your My Disney Experience app. So after you go through and select your time, it's going to be there. You'll see it in your My Day plans, and then you'll see it on your front page. You'll also get little notification reminders that your time is coming up. So you're going to have an hour window that you can get to that ride. When you actually go over to the ride to scan in, you will just scan your Magic Band if you're using that, your key to the world card, or your phone. It's really so easy. Now comes the tricky part. When can you book rides? So your first one, like I said before, if you are an on-site guest, is allowed at 7 a.m. The next ride choice that you can make is 2 hours after the park opens or after you've scanned into your first selection. So I know this is so confusing. It's called the 120-minute wait or your first selection. So let's just do an example day. You're going to Magic Kingdom and your first selection is for Jungle Cruise, but it's not until 12 p.m. Let's say Magic Kingdom opens at 9 a.m. So you can actually make your next selection at 11 a.m. That's 2 hours after the park opens. So by the time you ride Jungle Cruise, you already have 2 selections for that day. After you tap into Jungle Cruise, you can then make another selection. Your next selection after that will come either when you tap into your next ride or you wait 120 minutes. And this is where it kind of gets tricky and strategizing really comes into play. Let's do another example day. So you're visiting Magic Kingdom and at 7 a.m. you choose Peter Pan with a return time for 10:30 to 11:30. The best thing to do in this situation is to wait until after 11 o'clock to check into Peter Pan. Because at 11 o'clock, you can grab a lightning lane and let's say you get Space Mountain for 2:30. After you get that, go tap into Peter Pan and then you can immediately make another lightning lane. So right there, you just made 2 in a row by using the system effectively. This is also where prioritizing your rides and knowing what's important to you really comes into handy. Because sometimes you have to make these quick decisions and by already knowing what you want your plan to be, it just makes it so much easier. So a new feature that's been added to Genie Plus since I was there that I absolutely love, I know it's helping guests and I think it's a fantastic addition, is you can change your times on your Genie Plus selections. So Genie Plus reservations can be modified once you've made them. You can change the time of the reservation, you can change it to a different attraction, or you can do both. If you're changing the attraction, you're limited only to the attractions that's in the park you're in. If you want to switch to an attraction at a different park, say after 2 p.m. because you're going to be park hopping, you're going to have to cancel and rebook, which I don't know if I recommend that. I mean, you're going to have to be playing a risky game. So here's how you're going to modify your selection. Go to the My Day tab in My Disney Experience and select the reservation that you want to change. At the top of that reservation, there will be 3 little dots in the right-hand side. Click those dots and then select Modify Plan. The next screen will show you the options that are available to you. It will show you other times for that same attraction, and it's going to show you other attractions in your park with their return times. So once you make your choice, you will have a confirmation screen. It's so easy, and it really helps take some of the stress out of racing around the park to make sure you make it to your lightning lanes. Which I think was one of the problems people have with Genie Plus is that they say you're always on your phone, you're kind of rushing around to make sure you get there, you spend all this extra money and this extra time, and then you miss your lightning lane, and then you have, just people are upset. So by being allowed to modify your reservation, it's really going to take that stress, especially away from families who have small children, because you just never know what's going to happen to you when you're in the parks. So I think that's all for this episode. Like I said, I'm going to, in the show notes, include a list of the rides at each park. I'm also going to be writing a blog post all about Genie Plus, how to use it. So make sure you go to the website, DisneyTravelTales.com, and select the blog tab and look for that. You can also subscribe while you're over there so you will get email notifications whenever a new blog post comes out. If you are listening to this episode live, I am going to have a question box over at Instagram today, and I will answer any of your questions in regards to Genie Plus. So after listening to this, if you feel a little bit confused, if you have some questions, if you have an upcoming trip that you need some advice or help with, I would love to help you. Send me a message or drop a question in the question box, and let's get this conversation started. When was the last time you visited a Disney park? For many adults, it's been a really long time. I would love to help you fix that situation. As a travel agent specializing in Disney, my job is to make sure your vacation can go as seamless as possible. All of my services are complimentary to my clients. Yes, you heard that right. I'm free to you. These services include helping you from the start finding the perfect resort to fit your needs, handling all the bookings and reservations, helping to teach you about the parks, because if it's been a while, man, have they changed. I have insider tips and tricks I share with all of my clients, and I will be your single point of contact throughout your entire trip, even while you are there. Don't wait another year to visit a Disney park or go on a Disney cruise. Let this be the year you finally go. Email me at jenny@trolleylanetravel.com to get the conversation started, or see the link in the show notes to fill out my quote form. All listeners that book a trip with me will receive a $20 gift card to use on their trip. Just make sure you say you heard this on the podcast. Okay, now back to the show. Thank you for listening today. I really appreciate you spending your time over here with us, and I hope this was just what you needed to hear today. I'm always looking for new guests for the podcast, so if you are traveling to any Disney park or cruise, see the show notes for more information about being on the show. Visit the show all around the web at DisneyTravelTales.com or find us on Instagram and Facebook at Disney Travel Tales. See pictures from the guests on their vacations, plus this is just a great way to stay up to date with all things related to the podcast and Disney travel in general. Join me next week with a brand new episode. So until then, this is Jenny, and may all your Disney travel dreams become a reality.